WWE Unreal is officially out, and I'm here to tell you that it changed the dynamic of pro wrestling forever. Let's go talk about it. WWE Unreal is currently out, and you can go check it out. One of the biggest focal points of this is the dynamic of the show, because none of us really knew what to expect from it. We didn't know what it was going to be. A lot of us just expected it to be one of those things where you go, you watch the show, and they show you a little bit behind the curtains. And that's not what they did. In fact, they dug so deep that we got to learn about these individual people. And in the first episode of WWE Unreal, some of the people that we learned about, I'll throw a list up for you guys. We learned about Cody Rhodes. We learned about John Cena. We learned about Rhea Ripley. We learned about CM Punk. And everything that was going to be taking place on January 6, 2025, the Raw on Netflix debut. And man, did we have a lot to cover. So I wanted to start off and kick things off with just the opening of the show. And the opening of the show is no other than Paul Triple H Levesque. Triple H opened up with a monologue talking about the business and how kayfabe was so protected for so long up into a certain point. Fun fact, Triple H is some of the reason why kayfabe no longer exists. So it is very, very certain that Triple H would be the person behind this show. So he talked about everything that happens in the business, and then we kind of get to a cut scene where we talk about Cody Rhodes and how his real name is Cody Runnels, and he explains to the audience the role that he plays in WWE, and that role is no other than Cody Rhodes, the WWE Undisputed Champion. But the way that he talked to the camera was in such a way that he acted as if nobody had ever seen the WWE before, and that is a huge focal point, because that tells you everything that you need to know about this show in one instance, and that is that they went into this looking for a brand new audience. They are trying to reach past the wrestling fan that is you and I, and they are trying to create new ones. This is a reality TV show where they are talking about the behind the scenes of everything and really making you dive into it. And they talked about Cody Rhodes, and Cody Rhodes talked about himself as if he was certainly nobody. So amazing. I love to see it. It makes me very happy. So Cody Rhodes, we get into a little bit of his life, and he talks about his daughter, and he talks about how she believes that he is a dancer, which, you know, you can look at some of his moves. It's very fair to say. And after that, we would kind of get to a scene where, you know, Triple H is talking about the biggest people in the business and follows John Cena. And now, John Cena also spoke in a way where nobody has ever heard or seen John Cena. And I thought that that was amazing. It was something, that was one of the biggest points in this show that really caught my attention, was that they were talking as if nobody had ever heard of them. And I love that. I really do. Trying to reach a new audience is always what entertainers are striving to do. Because yes, the audience is big, but it could grow. And that's what WWE is trying to do here. And following John Cena, they would go into the next big star, and it's Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley is a phenomenon at this point. She is so well known through so many different atmospheres, whether it be TikTok, whether it be YouTube, whether it be on WWE TV. Everybody knows who Rhea Ripley is, but they didn't talk like that. She did not talk like that. She talked about the human who Rhea Ripley is. She talked about her daily life. She talked about the things that she does before the shows. Has a lot of anxiety before those shows begin. And I think that's very fair, because we're all human, right? We're all going to run into some kind of anxiety. So it was so warming and comfortable to know that these things were happening. And then following that, we had no other than CM Punk. CM Punk talked about his road back to the WWE. He talked about how long he had wrestled for. He talked about all the names that people gave him, whether it be Pepsi Phil, CM Punk, Phil Brooks. It didn't matter what you called him. CM Punk talked as Phil Brooks. They also talked about the dynamic between Triple H and CM Punk and how they clashed heads for a long time, because at one point they were both main roster talent at the same time together. So, of course, Triple H comes into the office. He's now a board member, and he's doing all of those things. Realistically, CM Punk could not look at Paul Triple H Levesque as a boss, because he always viewed him as a co-worker. He talked about how people of Triple H's times looked at CM Punk as, hey, you're not taking my spot. And that angered CM Punk. And they talked about how much animosity that they truly had towards each other, and it wasn't up until that last phone call before Survivor Series 2023 where they realized, hey, you're different, I'm different, you've changed, I've changed. Let's get this done. And then Survivor Series 2023 happens, and CM Punk becomes, the biggest WWE return of all time, and the rest is history there. But the biggest focal point of this show was the lead to Raw on Netflix, because that's what they were covering. Getting to January 6th, 2025. That was obviously going to be their biggest show of the year because it was the debut on Netflix, where Netflix is inside 300 million homes. That's a lot of homes globally. So there were going to be new people watching. So they get to the Raw on Netflix and they talk about the storylines that they have currently going on. One of those storylines is Seth Rollins and CM Punk. Another one is Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan. And those were two very focal points of the show. They talked about how Phil was preparing for Seth Rollins later that night. And then they had the match with Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, and they showed the producers like Abyss and Petey Williams. They showed so many different people, Bruce Pritchard being another one, Triple H, everybody in the gorilla position, which is another thing that they really covered. The biggest talking point out of this was how I viewed the dynamic of each wrestler. So we get into the Liv Morgan Rhea Ripley match, and they never really showed the Liv Morgan dynamic between Rhea Ripley and on the human side. They never showed how those two talked about the match together. They only talked from Rhea's perspective, and I thought it was amazing. I loved every second of it. Now, I must say that with all this going on, Rhea Ripley is being told by the ref, who the ref has a headset in and is being told numerous things, which a lot of us wrestling fans already knew. But he's being told all these different things and how the camera is supposed to point and what Rhea is supposed to be doing at that exact moment in time. And I just thought it was such a beautiful, beautiful thing to see. I loved literally every second of this first episode. And then we get into the CM Punk and Seth Rollins match, and we find out that that match actually went almost 4 or 5 minutes over time. And, you got to see a world where WWE in the gorilla position are stressing out because of the time. Abyss is trying to take out certain parts of the match, and he's telling the ref, hey, don't cut the Anaconda Vice. Let Phil know, don't do the Anaconda Vice. And then he's looking at Bruce Pritchard and he's saying, hey, man, we're going home. It's time. This is the finish. And then you see the finish, and it gives me goosebumps because all I can think to myself is, man, how hard these guys work in these moments is just so incredibly unseen, and it's not something that we ever really get to see. But then on top of that, another big thing, and I was very interested to see if WWE would do this. And again, I'm only on episode 1. For everybody who is wondering, I am currently only on episode 1. I have not watched the rest of them, and I'm going to just watch them as I want and feel, and then I will make videos talking about them. CM Punk and Seth Rollins, they never showed what it looked like for those two backstage. And one of the biggest questions as wrestling fans that we've all wondered is, do they really not like each other? And again, it goes back to the beginning point where I talked about the dynamic of this show. Everything that this show meant, and them showing all of these behind the curtain things. They didn't show everything, because here we are after the first episode, still left with so many questions. Well, do Punk and Rollins really not like each other? How did they choreograph the match? What did it look like for those two? Where did they sit? How did they talk to one another? How do they conduct business together? Same as Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, talking about the Dominic Mysterio thing and how that all played out over the course of 2 years. What did their dynamic look like? What was going through John Cena's mind as he was returning? Because I'm still only seeing the John Cena that I know. Hey, man, I'm good, man. As he's walking through the gorilla position. So many questions still left unanswered, but such an awesome show. If you guys have not checked out WWE Unreal, I highly suggest that you do, because this show, ultimately, one of the best things as a wrestling fan I've been able to enjoy. So I suggest, if you don't, go get Netflix, go check out the show. But more importantly, if you guys are new here, definitely be sure to hit that like button and smash that subscribe button, man, because we are on the road to 6,000 subscribers, and we are really getting there. I'm not even kidding you. So if you guys would like, definitely do that. I appreciate all of you guys from the bottom of my heart. WWE Unreal is out right now. Other than that, I'll be talking to you later. Peace.